Good morning, it's Granny B, and I'm going to do a little different video today than I've ever done before. And being a part of the homesteading community, you know how so many of us are preppers and survivalists. Well, one of my favorite words is thrive. So I like to think that we are also thrivalists. And I have a lady here with me today who is very talented and has a wonderful ministry, and she certainly is a thrivalist, and her name is Jeanette Sharp.
Hi.
She is a friend and she is a member of our congregation. She's in a position to help people who want to get back to nature, and that's what the homesteading community is all about. Get back to nature, do things the way Yahweh wanted us to do it, and I'm going to let her tell you what she does.
I'm actually a midwife, an out-of-hospital midwife. A lot of people refer to them as home birth midwives, and I love it.
How long have you been doing this, Jeanette?
I've been doing this I've been training and then being a midwife for the last almost 6 years. July will be 6 years. So
that's a good long time.
Mm-hmm.
Approximately how many babies have you delivered?
I was counting them up the other day, and pretty close to 125. So some of those I was an assistant at, and some of them I was the primary midwife. But actually our dads catch some of the babies, so I'm just kind of the overseer.
I would like to have a dad be involved like that. Have you ever delivered your first child for a woman who then goes on and has other children who have called you?
Yes.
How many multiples have you had like that?
One mom, I've been at 3 of her births.
Oh.
And so I don't know how many. I've been at several, but I would say maybe a handful, maybe 5. So
that's exciting to me.
It is. I feel like I'm part of the family.
Well, sure. Is there anything that you find most interesting about being a midwife?
Oh, most everything. I just love seeing a new life coming into this world. It is, to me, it is the most awesome thing on earth. I mean, to just be a part of. We know that life is there when the mom is carrying the baby. She knows it more than anyone because she feels all the kicks. But to actually see that little person, he's there. He opens his eyes. He has a personality. It is just the coolest thing to me to see him from birth, being that little person that we all knew he was, but it just becomes a reality.
That would be exciting because, and everyone here today puts their videos on about when their little seedlings start sprouting, and how excited they are just about a seedling, or when a lamb or a goat or a calf, anything is born.
Yes.
It is so exciting, but how much more exciting to actually be a part of the human birth process.
Yes.
And this is very dear to me because I was a young woman whenever my first one was born, and it was just beginning to be a hippie kind of thing for the women to want to have natural birth. And from my mother, who had had 6 children, and she had been put to sleep in all of those, and you put a very good video on Facebook the other day about twilight sleep, and I'm thinking, I guess that's what my mother had. But so I'm a new generation now, and I wanted to do it naturally, and so I did, and it was so special. And so then as my children were born, and then my grandchildren were born, and being there and being a part of it, it's just unbelievable how miraculous it is.
It is. I feel very privileged. I mean, to me, it's just a privilege to be able to be a part of that. It's pretty awesome. The thing I've been thinking about here lately is, we think it's a new trend, but honestly, this has been going on since the beginning of time.
Yes.
And there was just a segment of time that technology took over. They knew how to do it better than the women knew how to do it. They made so many women feel like they don't know their own bodies, like they're not able to birth their own babies. And so it's a rough thing, you know, to overcome that thinking that has become so prevalent in our society, for women to be able to realize my body was made to have babies, and you know, and they can just do it. And we don't need all the technology and all the interventions and the help with the pain, because there's a lot of natural things that we can do for pain. You know, there just are a lot of things. We offer water births, and water is an awesome pain reliever.
I was going to ask about the water births.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad you mentioned it.
It's an awesome. One of the terms for it is aquadural. You've heard of epidural, but an aquadural is just the water giving you that pain relief. And you know, a lot of women, when they're sick or achy, they'll go climb into a hot tub because that brings them relief. Yes. And that's what it does for a mama who's in labor and she's having those strong urges to, you know, her body is working hard, so she gets into that warm water. And I love the sound when a mom first steps into the tub. It's like, oh, that feels so good. And I'm thinking, yes, it does. I'm so glad it's helping, you know.
Good.
So.
When I take a bath, when I'm hurting like that, I put Epsom salt in my water.
Yeah.
Do you use an Epsom salt or anything like that in your water?
Not in labor, we don't, just because the babies are born into it, and it probably wouldn't hurt them. But if we have someone who's had a long labor and they've been in and out of the pool quite a bit, we will put a cup of salt in there, because salt is good at killing germs and just kind of making it a better situation for the baby to be birthed in. But usually we don't. But through their pregnancy, I often recommend Epsom salt baths when they're feeling achy, or maybe they're having a lot of Braxton Hicks that day. You know, it just kind of helps with that.
And at what point, when you just said if the labor has been long, at what point do you make a decision as to whether you need more help or things aren't going right? What is your experience with that?
Well, so many things depend on the mom, and it's not my decision alone to make. That is the neat thing about home birthing with a home birth midwife, is our parents, who are the parents of this new child, they make the decisions for their own selves. We give them what's called informed consent. So they are informed of the options, of the different paths that their labor is taking. You know, perhaps we have a mom that's stalled for a while, but she's doing fine, baby's doing fine. You know, they have the options of just keeping on, or if they really want to give up and they want to, you know, just go have interventions, because, you know, there is a time for that, especially if there's an emergency going on. But if there's not, and the mom and dad are feeling good about it, and the midwife's feeling good about it, then give it time. Babies don't come instantly, generally.
And in the case of a woman who already has children, do the children get in on this process, or?
Some parents want their kids there. They want them in the room. Some of them in the pool with them, you know. And others, they want their family there, but not in the room, kind of out in the living room area. And so it just depends on the parents, you know. Some mamas find that they relax better when it's just quiet and they don't have the pressures of people waiting on them. And others are totally happy to have everybody around. It kind of keeps them going. So it's just personality thing and what they want.
And I had never even thought of this until it just happened. But, you know, we think of those old movies where the woman is in a room all by herself with the midwife or the doctor, the old country doctor, and daddy, and everybody's in the other room, and they are so anxious to hear that slap and the cry, the first cry. And I know when my granddaughter was born, my daughter did want me there and her husband there, and anybody else that was interested, but people just kind of came in and out. But the husband and I were right there all the time.
Yes, we do recommend that. I mean, he is the father of this baby, and so, and there's generally a really good relationship between the mom and dad, and the mom and dad working together to bring this baby is an awesome sight to behold. Loving on one another. You know, oftentimes the dad might just be holding her from behind and just kind of talking gently and tenderly to her, and it's such a beautiful thing. I just almost feel like I'm interfering sometimes. I'm just like, step in, check hard tones, and get out of the way. You know, just let them do their thing. You know, that's how it was meant to be, and it is beautiful.
So you are so enthusiastic about this. Would you recommend other women to get interested in perhaps becoming a midwife? And what kind of advice would you give a woman who might be interested in doing this?
Okay, well, there's different things you can do as far as birth, and let me tell you a little bit about what I did. I first became interested in birth in general after my second baby, who actually happened to be a stillborn baby. And I had a childbirth education teacher who came to my birth with me, and she held my hand and she spoke kind words to me, and she helped me every step of the way. And when we were done, I just was so appreciative for her input in my life. And I was talking to her about that and thanking her, and she said, Jeanette, you should become a doula. That's what she was doing. She was a doula. A doula is a Greek word that means helping a woman, being a helper for her. And so I did that 25 years ago. I became a doula, and I would go to births and just help the moms, you know, just kind of be an encourager. They were hospital births, most of them, and I would just be there to give her sips of water, ice chips, and put a cool cloth on her head and give her words of encouragement and help the dad know what to do, because so many times dads are just like, I don't know how to help, you know. And a doula is good for helping the dad know how to help the laboring mom. So that was how I got started. Well, then I got busy having my own children and homeschooling, and decided to kind of put it all on a back burner for a while. So fast forward almost 20 years later, and I'm attending prenatal appointments with my daughter, and she's going to a midwife. And I'm loving it. You know, of course I'm excited. I'm going to be a grandma, and I'm just watching the interactions. And I had a midwife with one of my children, so I wasn't unfamiliar with the process. But as I'm going through it, I'm suddenly remembering, Jeanette, you kind of thought a long time ago that you might like to do this someday. I wonder if you could train with her. And so I asked her, I said, look, do you ever need help? I mean, could I help you in some way? And so she started kind of asking me questions and directing me, trying to find out, do I just want to hang out with laboring women? Do I want to be a doula? Do I want the responsibilities of being a midwife? And so she kind of talked me through all of that, and I decided, yes, I definitely do want to be a midwife. And the timing was becoming a lot better. I had one child left. No, I had 3 left in school at that time. By the time I finished my training, I only have 1 child left in school. And we are homeschooling and do a lot of self-taught, so it has worked really well for me. But so my advice to folks, if they want to get started, is find a midwife and talk to her. And my midwife acted as a preceptor for me. So basically what that means is I went through an organization called NARM, which is the North American Registry of Midwives. I believe I got that right. And I was working towards getting a certified professional midwife certification. And in doing that, I followed my preceptor around, and she watched me, she oversaw me, she taught me things, and I filled out all the paperwork, and I studied on my own, and I took tests. That's one route to becoming a midwife.
I want to interrupt.
Go ahead.
When she was studying for the midwife exam, she asked for prayer in our group, because we do pray for each other, and someone said, Berta, will you please pray for Jeanette for this? And I said, I'll be glad to. And so then when I started praying, I just started boo-hooing. And I said, because it's so touching that someone is so involved in bringing a new life in, and I'm going to start crying again. But so after the prayer was over and we had fellowship time again, Jeanette came over to me and she hugged me and she said, "Thank you so much for that prayer. It sounds like you need to go with me on a birth."
That's what I'm thinking. Maybe Berta needs to be a midwife.
I think I would probably enjoy that. I don't know
Good.
that I would want to do it all the time
Yeah.
because I've got so many other irons and so many fires, but it did. It touched me
Yeah.
tremendously that I could pray for you that your test would go well.
Well, I
and
passed
it did.
it. Thank you. Yeah, it was not as hard as I mean, it was difficult, but not as hard as I had it all imagined in my mind. So I just had to keep reading and studying, and I was good. But one thing that, you have to think about when becoming a midwife is the time commitment, because there was a huge commitment of time all through my
Yes.
training. You're basically on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Period.
Yes.
If you have anybody who's within 6 weeks, 3 weeks before, 3 or 4 weeks after, just depending, you're on call because we don't know when labor's going to start. That is, it's up to him.
Yes.
And our bodies and our babies signal to each other when it's time. Hormones come into play and all kinds of stuff. So, but we don't know that. We don't know when that's happening. So you have to be an encourager. You have to be very patient, and you have to be able to thrive on not enough sleep sometimes.
There's that word "thrive" again.
Yeah. So.
Well, I think this has been very good, and we probably ought to wrap it up, but I want to give you one more chance to say anything that you want to say, whatever's on your heart.
Well, I don't know what that would be. Is maybe we could do a part 2 sometime, and I could show you the birth house. We could kind of go through and show you where births take place. Now, I do some home births for Oklahoma women, but I don't operate in Arkansas at all as a midwife, and so and we live very close to Arkansas. I mean, that's a good portion of our women could come from Arkansas, so they can come to us, to me, and that I work with another midwife over in Roland, and birth there and have an Oklahoma birth, because Oklahoma is a lot more friendly towards home birthing and midwives and that sort of thing.
Okay. Well, I think that's a good way to wrap it up. In fact, when she said that, having a second interview, if you have enjoyed this interview and if you want to know more, please leave comments on the comment section, because I do monitor your comments and I love and appreciate every one of them, and want to give them the most attention that I can with a good comprehensive reply. And so if anybody wants to know more about what Jeanette does, and be specific about your questions, and we'll have her on again. So thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.